Is Chris, the gaming librarian, and I'm here to talk to you today about the PlayStation series of consoles. In my Wednesday night sequences, I have been covering various consoles in what I like to call an introduction to gaming and libraries. Um, Over the past 2 weeks, I've covered both the Nintendo Switch and the Microsoft Xbox Series S and X consoles. And today I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into Sony's console market. So, with their PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 consoles. Before I get too carried away, just a couple of notes. First off, thank you very much to all my viewers who have been watching along with these videos. I really hope that they have been informative and that you have learned something new. But again, never hesitate to reach out, leave questions or comments in the chat, or feel free to tune into the twitch.tv channel. There is in my main profile an active link to the Discord channel that I have created just for the Chris the Gaming Librarian sessions, where I'm happy to take any questions. But I also update on cool and interesting and awesome gaming news that has been coming up. And of course, naturally, as we get closer to E3 and sort of the Christmas time in June for gamers everywhere, I'll be posting a lot more. Now, as we are going along, you'll be seeing a couple of videos coming up, and I would like to give thanks in advance to IGN, a gaming website, for all the videos that they are providing for this episode today. So I will get started and introduce myself and sort of what PlayStation means to me. So it was at the age of 8, way back in the mid 1990s, that I was first exposed to the PlayStation 1 and fell in love. Now, never before had I seen 3D graphics that looked so crisp and amazing. And this was, obviously a child coming out of the Sega Genesis era. Suddenly to be exposed to the PlayStation 1 was mind boggling. Before me were these, what we would call barbaric polygonal or polygon shapes. But to my mind, at 8 years old in the mid 90s, was mind boggling to go from 2D sprites in a 2D plane to 3D. And so, outside of the Ocarina of Time in the Legend of Zelda series, I had actually been exposed to that much 3D before. And it was with Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1 that I was first exposed. So, that's way back in the day in 95, 96. Hopping ahead today, we are now 5 console generations deep into the Sony PlayStation ecosystem. And just as of last year, the PlayStation 5 launched. So, for today's session, what I will be focusing on is looking at the last 2 generations in particular of the Sony consoles, so the PlayStation 4 and the recently released PlayStation 5, and examine how your library can go about building a PlayStation collection, whether you're starting from scratch or whether you already have some PlayStation games or PlayStation itself and want to build upon that. So, aside from highlighting the overall pros and cons of the console, I will also discuss how to best market your PlayStation to your library's audience, what is necessary to build an in-house collection from scratch, as well as fun library programming ideas for in-house usage with a PlayStation. Looking at services such as PlayStation Now for those who are wanting the best option to save a bit of money but also have the most access to games. And finally, just an overall look at the console itself. So, the PlayStation 4 and 5, similar to the Xbox One and Series S and X consoles, are meant to appeal to a larger range of people. Meaning that, unlike the Nintendo Switch, which I, in my personal opinion, tend to be or tend to regard as more family oriented, the PlayStation 4 and 5 are definitely more mature in content. So in the videos that you'll be watching, you'll see a lot more adult oriented games. That's just the natural player base to these consoles, but that is not to dismiss them in saying that there isn't anything family oriented at all on these consoles. Actually, quite the opposite. Well, the console features a lot of games that'll appeal to your teen and adult audiences, some of which in the past 5 years have included the likes of The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider Man, and God of War, which all range from teen for teen all the way up to M for mature ratings. Um, there are a wide range of family oriented games, including all the Lego series of games, so like Lego Harry Potter, the Marvel superheroes, the DC supervillains, if you want an interesting take, as well as Astrobot, which is a VR experience on the PlayStation 4, but also a built in game, as you can see in this background video on the PlayStation 5. Little Big Planet, or Sackboy in the most recent iteration, which is a fun sort of Sony's take on the Mario and Yoshi's Woolly World of games. And then finally, Ratchet and Clank, with a big release coming up on June 11th on the PlayStation 5 for the new Ratchet and Clank game. A personal one that I'm super excited for. Now, when starting your collection from scratch, you will want to ask yourself and your library where you wish to begin. I say this because the PlayStation 5, even in May 2021, it is currently an incredibly hard console to find. A, due to the pandemic. B, a worldwide chip and circuit shortage that is making all these gaming consoles really hard. So it's not only impacting Sony, it's also impacting Xbox and the Nintendo Switch as well. But if you can find a PlayStation 5 to purchase, it is also one that is quite expensive. So I'm based in Canada, and depending on which version of the PlayStation 5 you're going for, the disc-less version can go for as low as $550 or so after tax. Whereas if you're going to the disc-based version, so one where you can actually put the physical discs into, you're going to be looking at somewhere in the $650 to $700 range for the console. This being said, the Xbox is just as expensive, if not coming in a little bit cheaper. American, the price range is about $400 to $500 or so dollars USD. However, if you can find a PlayStation 5, I will say it is a worthwhile investment. Just like I said with the Xbox last week, when you buy into the newest generation of consoles, you're buying into a console that is going to last you the next 7 to 10 years. Whereas the PlayStation 4 is now readily available. So that is what is considered the last generation of consoles and ranges anywhere between $300 to $400 USD or $400 to $500 Canadian, depending on the model that you want and how much storage you want in the console itself. But aside from it being more readily accessible, you also have a huge variety of games. The benefit to the PlayStation 5, of course, is the benefit that any PlayStation 4 games that you have in your collection or may already have existing can play on the PlayStation 5, whereas you don't have that same form of compatibility between the PlayStation 4 and PS5 titles. As well, over the next year or two, there is the benefit that most first-party games releasing, as well as third-party, so everything from Little Big Planet to Horizon, all the way to your third-party titles like Just Dance or Call of Duty, the fact remains that these games will be releasing on both console generations. So even if your library is investing in the PlayStation 4, it is not as if you are losing out. And right now, the PlayStation 5 exclusive games that are coming out are far and few between. As well, I have found, at least with the PlayStation 4, one of the benefits, and I'll talk about this a little bit later on, is the fact that you can play PSVR, so PlayStation's virtual reality headset using the PlayStation 4, more easily than on the PlayStation 5, though there is a little dongle adapter that you can get that hooks into the back of the PlayStation 5 and allows the headset to be compatible with that console. Now, that being said, for any in house collection, if you are starting from scratch, you are going to want at least a minimum of 2 controllers, if not up to 4. Unlike the Switch, the PlayStation and the Xbox are sort of relegated to 4-person maximum multiplayer games, unless you're entering into games like Jackbox, Party Pack, where those use cell phones instead, and then that way you can connect up to 6 players. You'll also want to invest in an external hard drive, and I should have said this last week for the Xbox podcast as well, but with these next gen consoles and even the Xbox One and PS4, I found from personal experience that even having upwards of 10 or more games installed on my console was actually quite difficult to do, and it required me to invest in a 1 to 2 terabyte at minimum external hard drive to at least allow the max amount of games to be downloaded. And if you're using this system for in-house programming, I would strongly recommend doing so. Now, in terms of fun library programs that you can run, similar to the Xbox Series X and S programs I was talking about last week, you can, of course, start off by running a passive program where you just set up the console in a dedicated spot in your library, one that's readily accessible to youth, but also one that is visible to staff to ensure that nothing goes missing. And then that way you can loan out controllers, you can loan out games for youth and children and adults alike to use. Just Dance parties are a fantastic program to run. I absolutely enjoy doing this with my own 10s to Teens group, where whether it was using a smart device or a controller, 6 of them could play all at once and just dance and move around. Also, co-op championships, so games like Overcooked, Moving Out, Towerfall, all exist on the PlayStation series of consoles, and so you have the opportunity to do that. The DJ Music Challenge, so games like Just Sing or Fuser, so very music-oriented games are an open possibility for programming. Trivia challenges, using games similar to Jackbox, Party Pack 1 through 7, What the Dub, or any other trivia games that allow participants to sync up their phones and use that as a controller are great options to explore. But one that is very unique to the PlayStation series of consoles that I really like is the VR experiences. Now, we're in 2021. There's a multitude of VR headsets that exist out there, and some of them are wireless. Now, the catch with the wireless headsets, things like the Oculus Quest or the Valve Index, is A, they're incredibly expensive, and B, the software tends to be limited. The PlayStation VR is an older headset, so it did come out in 2017, but I do find the experiences on them, the resolution of the headset, the tech within the headset, as you can see in the video clips playing on the screen right now, are relatively phenomenal. And so games like Astrobot, which we just caught a glimpse of, Star Wars Vader Immortal, where you get to play as Darth Vader and wield a lightsaber, Iron Man VR, where you guessed it, you get to play as Tony Stark himself, going around and saving people from danger while going around with your blasters and getting to shoot away. or even fun music-based experiences like Beat Saber. And if you have the opportunity, YouTube Beat Saber is an absolute blast. Again, it feels like you're holding lightsabers, and there are blocks coming towards you in sync with music, and you're getting to wave and swipe away the blocks with these swords that you have. And as you can see, with the two wands in your hands and the headset on top, it's relatively simple to do, and it's easy enough to sit down and have those experiences as well for more accessibility. And so these are just some of the program ideas that you can run in person in your library. Now, if you are in a library setting where you are still running virtual programming, which I know many libraries, myself included, are still in, the PlayStation does offer access to a lot of great free-to-play titles, things like Fortnite, Rocket League, Fall Guys, the Jackbox Party Pack 1 through 7 games. Now, admittedly, there is a cost associated with those, but they're all games that are really accessible, multi-platform, so that your youth don't necessarily need to have a PlayStation, but can have a computer, can have their own switches or tablets or other smart devices that they can download the games like Fortnite and Rocket League onto, and then can play along with you in virtual programming series. Moving forward, last week with the Xbox series of consoles, I talked about their subscription service and raved about it, quite frankly, called Game Pass. Now, PlayStation also has its own subscription service as well. It is called PlayStation Now, and similar to Game Pass, offers dozens upon dozens of games that once you are subscribed, you can download or stream at no additional cost. The only cost is sort of the size of the games and how limited you are by your hard drive space. But it is a great alternative to those of you who may be starting from scratch or who don't have a lot of money necessarily to spend on physical hard disk copies of games, but instead would prefer to stream them for in-house programming. There is a small catch though, and some small caveats. First is I would highly recommend, if you are using the PlayStation Now subscription, that you ensure that your PlayStation 4 or 5 is hardwired into your internet. So using an Ethernet cord and sort of linking it up to the internet in your wall. I have found it just boosts the streaming quality, so you get less stagger, less lag, and a higher resolution, but it also allows for faster download speeds as well. There is a catch in that in order to have a PlayStation Now subscription, you also need to have a PlayStation Plus subscription. PlayStation Plus being a yearly subscription required by PlayStation to have your console be able to connect to the internet to play online multiplayer games, with the exception of things like Rocket League or Fortnite or Apex Legends. So all in all, American, you're probably looking at about $100 plus investment. Canadian, you're looking at about not 200, but about $150. So it is costly upfront per year, but with the amount of access to games and different experiences that you have, and it's not only limited to PlayStation console specific games, but also virtual reality games for the PS VR headset. I definitely think you're getting bang for your buck. Not necessarily as much as Microsoft's Game Pass, but it's getting there. So, my overall pros and cons for the PlayStation series of consoles. So, this is specifically the 4 and PlayStation 5. The pros include it's a powerful console. So, speaking of the PlayStation 5, with a lot of support from developers, they're going out of their way to make really phenomenal experiences, and personally some of the best looking games that I have seen this generation yet. The PlayStation 5 console series, similar to the Xbox Series S and X, comes in an all digital format. So if you're wanting to save a bit of money, and your library is wanting to invest in one of these consoles, the digital console itself is definitely worthwhile. Again, you're probably going to want an extra external hard drive to attach to your console. As well, you would be looking at using services like PlayStation Now, along with PlayStation Plus more frequently. But you'll also have access to a wide variety of games and not have to worry about spending out money on physical disc versions of popular games. There are a wide variety of titles available for all ages. So, yes, while a lot of the videos playing in the background, and as I discussed at the beginning, suggest that this is oriented towards teens and adults more so than children, it's not to say that there aren't a good variety of family friendly titles on either of these consoles. If you're building a physical collection, game titles do tend to drop quite quickly in price, especially on the PlayStation 4. So, usually within 2 to 4 weeks of its initial release, you'll see games drop anywhere between $10 to $30. It allows for a wide range of free to play titles to be accessed, and games like Fortnite and Rocket League are not only free to play but also cross platform. Meaning that anyone, anywhere can access these games, anywhere from a smart device to a Nintendo Switch to an Xbox, and you can all play together. And it is a cheaper and more accessible way of entering into the VR or virtual reality headset space. So it is one of the cheapest on the markets with a good variety of games and experiences to have. And with the promise of an updated headset sort of lurking in the future, in the next 2 to 3 years on the PlayStation 5, we will likely see a PSVR 2, or whatever they wish to call it, come out that'll have a higher resolution, more compatibility with games, more maneuverability and experiences to have. That being said, there are some cons to this console, and I will be upfront about them. Games do tend to be more expensive on average. This is particularly the case with PlayStation 5 games, where this generation I have found that what is, for in Canada, example, a new game is $80 for the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox Series X is now $10 more on the PlayStation 5. This is not the case with all games, but certainly first party titles, things like God of War, Spider-Man, that's playing in the background, Astrobot, Horizon Zero Dawn, they're all costing just that little bit more to get nowadays, and this seems to be a trend that's going to stick around. If entering into virtual reality programming, the PSVR still does require a hardwired connection into the console. That being said, the cord that runs from your headset into the console itself is quite generous in length. So we're talking roughly 8 to 10 feet. And again, as I said, you don't necessarily need to look at a large screen. It's all in front of your eyes. So you can be close to the console without issue. It's just movement can be a bit tricky depending on the game. Supplies of the newest PlayStation consoles are extremely limited and hard to find. More so with PlayStation 5 than I have found with the Xbox Series S and X. I find every couple of weeks I can at least walk into a store and maybe catch sight of a current generation Xbox, whereas the PlayStation 5 I've yet to see regularly on shelves in stores. So it's definitely something that if you are interested in procuring for your library or even for your own personal collection, it's going to be something that you want to go into a brick and mortar store for, unless you want to watch Amazon very closely 24/7. But go into a brick and mortar store, say, hey, do you have lists available to pre-order the PlayStation 5, and often they can put your name down on the list and contact you once they have one in. And so usually the wait is no longer than a couple of months. But then again, that being said, with the shortages that there have been, not only in the consoles themselves, but the tech going into it, the difficulty in finding these consoles can vary. And then last but not least, with PlayStation Now, especially if you're going a digital route, though it is comparable to competitors such as Xbox Game Pass, it still does not offer day one titles. The reason I say this is because Xbox has made the promise and has delivered that some of their bigger titles like Halo, like Forza, any new ones that are coming out are available day and date with any subscriber to their service. Whereas PlayStation, you're usually waiting a few months before you see their bigger first party title show up. That being said, there are literally dozens upon dozens of games that you can play in the meantime while you're waiting for these games. Or if you're building a physical collection, then that shouldn't matter too much, because if you're keeping on top and up to date with those physical collections, then you're already going to have these titles there available. They just may be more difficult to come across or need to be reserved if you know you're going to use it for in-house programming. And the fact that with the PlayStation Now, it really absolutely does require a hard-wired connection into the internet to allow for the best streaming experience possible. Overall, the PlayStation 5, and this is the last console that I'm covering in this series of Intro to Gaming and Libraries, is one of my favorites. Between the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox, and the PlayStation 5, I would say the PlayStation 5 has the most unique experiences that I've gotten to enjoy in gaming in the last 5 years. And one that I would highly recommend to anyone if you can get your hands on it. That being said, if you are only looking at investing in one current or next gen console, I would certainly recommend looking at the community that you serve and who you want to reach out to. Because as it stands right now, best bang for your buck will go towards Xbox. But if you're looking at a long-term investment that's going to last a very long time, I would definitely, recommend either console. But one that's unique and one of a kind, I would say PlayStation 5. So this has been it for covering the big three console manufacturers, but this is certainly not the end of the Intro to Gaming and Libraries episodes that I will be putting out every Wednesday around 7 o'clock. Next week, what I will be doing is I will be looking at, outside of getting the consoles, what other tech do you need to get? So everything from controllers to charging docks to televisions, and ideally what televisions or monitors you want to hook up these new machines to get the best picture quality and the best experience possible. As well, don't hesitate to check out other series that I have running on my Chris the Gaming Librarian channel. So on Fridays, I run a Let's Play. Last week, I covered Miitopia and Knockout City. This Friday, I will be looking at Biomutant. And as well, every Monday, I have new game reviews that go up. This past Monday, I just looked at the new Nintendo Switch game, Miitopia. And next Monday, I will likely be looking at either Biomutant or doing an in-depth review of the Mass Effect Legendary Collection. Again, all these are uploaded and streamed around 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And again, a huge thanks to my audience. All of you have been absolutely fantastic, and thank you for following along. And again, don't hesitate. Go to twitch.tv/Chris the Gaming Librarian, where you can find more of my videos. You can find links to my Discord channel, where I update relevant news to the gaming world. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you for coming out. And this has been Chris, the gaming librarian, talking to you about the PlayStation 5. I hope you have a great night, and I'm signing out.